What's going on, guys? This is Bobby Douglas. Welcome to another 2021 NBA Draft Prospect full game video breakdown. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Texas big man Kai Jones. Personally, I am very high on Kai. I am going to have him in my top 10. In my final big board, my top 10 has been officially locked in, I think. And Kai is among that list. But listen, 6'11", 218 pounds, super fluid, super mobile for his size. It's kind of like unnerving to watch how mobile he is, and so I'm really excited to watch this game with you guys. Elite lob threat, shows really solid perimeter skills and flashes, and I just think the upside is absolutely there to be one of the better players in this draft class. So let's get right into it. He's going to be number 22 in the burnt orange right here, and here we go. I love this first play because he's just by design guarding their point guard, Ice Likely. Now, Ice isn't really a shooter, so it kind of makes sense for Kai to be guarding him as you see him kind of switch into the post right there. And he was a little bit out of position, but again, I just like how by design they have Kai Jones guarding the point guard to start off this video, which I think is very funny. But no, just super, laterally competent, very quick, moves his feet well, has good length, great lob catcher. Has perimeter skills. His shot is a little bit herky-jerky, but it goes in, and it looks pretty smooth, given his size and everything. And just overall, Kai Jones, I think, somebody had a good point. I think it might have been Chad Ford. And he basically said, if you're watching only highlights, as you see Kai Jones right there on Ice Likely, looks like we got a foul on, looks like Jericho Sims, but if you're only watching highlights of players, right, Kai Jones might be, number one on your board, or at least top three, right? Just the highlights in combination with his frame and athleticism and fluidity, they're really special. You can see him grab the rebound right here, and he's running the break, right? Not a great passer, but, when you have a 6'11 guy who can dribble, catch, shoot, things like that, it kind of becomes a little bit of a moot point if you could just play somewhat of a Christian Wood type of role. I've seen that comparison thrown around a lot. I think that's a fair one. But no, there's just a lot of things that he can do. And the problem is that they're all in flashes, right? He only played around 22 minutes a game this season, came off the bench for the majority of the year, only averaged around 8 points and 4 rebounds per game. And so, the numbers aren't really eye-popping, but it's just about the eye test and what you're seeing on the floor and just kind of buying into that long term. And I certainly am with Kai Jones. That's why I have him so high. You can see him right here guarding Ice Likely. Again, moving his feet really well for his size, not really giving him an inch, and a very physical rebound right there. And he's managed to snag that as well. So again, I'm pretty much all in on Kai. Right there, though, we will see some of these types of plays where, the basketball just technique isn't necessarily there yet. I would a lot of times when people refer to a prospect as raw, they mean raw in terms of basketball skills, like dribbling, shooting, passing. Kai Jones isn't really raw in that sense. He's more raw in just an overall mental processing sense. He didn't start playing basketball full time until he was 15 years old, right? And so that's super late to pick it up. So there are just a lot of things spatially, technique wise that need polishing up. I have really, I don't really have huge concerns about whether or not those start to come. But you can just see right here, for example, right? Look where he catches this ball. Look where he's about to receive this pass, and look at his entire left foot is basically out of bounds, right? That's just, you don't really see a player be off that much. You know what I mean? We see sometimes, guys will step on the sideline when they catch a three, when they catch a pass in the corner. But you don't really see that along the baseline where his feet are just literally standing out of bounds, right? Just things like that will happen a lot with Kai Jones where, you just are kind of perplexed at the certain types of turnovers he has, the defensive technique. But overall, I think the positives for me obviously outweigh the negatives with him. And that's why I have him so high. He's going to be top 10, probably either 8, 9, or 10, depending on where certain guys shake out. But he's going to be right there. Top 10 for me for sure. And, I get all the things he doesn't really play a whole lot. Really raw, not really technically sound player defensively, can make a lot of mistakes on that end. But I just think the upside is absolutely there. You can see him guarding Ice Likely again. And again, he's, not really giving him any space. He's letting him drive, or he's letting him shoot that, just because they don't really trust Likely's jump shot. And it seems to be a pretty good just overall, strategy as we got another turnover for Oklahoma State. And there's Kai Jones. So again, ESPN had him ranked 16th at this point in the season. This was, I think, in February, this game. So, I think right now he is a little bit more closer to top 10. Right here, though, you can kind of just see the lack of seasoning, right? This should be an easy catch and finish, right? It's a bad pass, a bad lob by, I think, Andrew Jones, it looks like. Bad, so Kai Jones has to go up with it and then come back down. And then you can see right here, he just rushes this. He's not really aware of where defenders are around him. And, he just kind of, botches this layup attempt. That needs to be a dunk or a make every single time in the NBA. And so that's just kind of one of those things where, like, I think with experience, with overall basketball seasoning, that should come along just fine. We got a foul here, and we will skip ahead. But yeah, so far we've seen some of the rawness with Kai Jones, and again, it's not really skill-based, it's more just, spatially, technique, things like that are a little bit more underdeveloped at this stage. But that's to be expected with a guy who's only been playing basketball full-time for like 5 years, right? And so Kai Jones, I think, again, the flashes, you can see him right here guarding Cade Cunningham, manages to get the ball loose. Again, this is just a really special play. And one thing, too, to note, okay, so we talk a lot about this with big men, right? The drop coverage debacle, right? We've seen it a ton in this playoffs, right? We see Phoenix run it all the time. We see Milwaukee ran it all the time. Utah runs it all the time, right? Drop coverage is a huge thing in the NBA because it protects the centers really from getting put on an island against these guards on the perimeter, right? Watch what Kai Jones does on this ball screen with Cade Cunningham. So it's coming right here. So what do you notice here? First of all, don't worry about this guy, okay? That should be Greg Brown's tag. But look at how Kai Jones is playing at the level of the screen, right? You don't see a lot of big guys doing this. And it's because Kai Jones is actually laterally quick enough to contain Cade Cunningham, long enough to disrupt his rhythm, and it's going to force a deflection out of bounds. It's still going to be Oklahoma State ball, but Kai Jones has shown that ability to be a disruptor on the perimeter level, which is something that a lot of 6'11" big men don't really have. We see a lot of times they're trying to protect the paint, things like that. But with Kai Jones, you can put him all over the place. You can have him guard point guards in spots. You can have him guard wings, have him on the blocks. We'll see a block that he has later in this first half on Cade Cunningham. You can see, again, same thing. Level of the screen. It's so important. It gives your defense so many more options and so much more security overall, right? So, again, ball screen's going to come. Level of the screen, right? He's not sitting back here by the Big 12 logo, which is very common among NBA bigs and even college bigs now, right? He's at the level of the screen, and he's guarding Cade Cunningham, gets a hand up, and he forces the miss, right? That's special stuff and stuff that you don't really see from guys his size. Just the fluidity, the length, the mobility, right? That's kind of like what you're banking on with Kai Jones. That's what I'm banking on with Kai Jones. So yeah, that's just kind of defensively, I think he is just, how would I even say it? Like, he's like a Pandora's box of good attributes, right? I think once you can unlock that, it becomes such a nightmare for opposing teams. Because how do you limit his impact defensively, right? He can be on the perimeter, right, and guard pretty much 1 through 5. On the blocks, he's not super strong yet, but he has really good shot blocking instincts. He has good length, good second jump, right? How do you mitigate that defensive threat? It's hard to not. It's hard to do that, right? So that's this type of game breaking defensive versatility that I think Kai Jones definitely has. You can see right there a little bit of opposition. So on this tag, Kai Jones, not really in great position on the post, right? You'd like to see him maybe get in between in denial, right? You can see him just kind of like, he's being boxed out basically, and so you'd like to see him maybe wrap around. His feet are all turned around. His left foot should be out in front, denying this post entry pass, because Cade Cunningham has this pass wide open if he wants to, right? He doesn't find him. But again, just like the little technique stuff, the footwork, which is pretty good offensively, but defensively, just kind of knowing angles, things like that. Kai Jones definitely shows a lack of understanding at this point in his development. But again, I think right now, just the flashes of what he could be are just too promising for me to pass up outside the top 10, I think. So right there, we have a miss. Kai Jones going to get the rebound, and again, just the fluidity. Just look at how much ground he covers right here, right? He's going to get the ball, jab step. I don't even know. He takes like 5 steps like right around here, but the last 2 steps are what I want you to focus on here, okay? 1. Okay, so this is going to be the first step, right? So then watch how far he gets with his second step. And again, he just glides through the lane, right? It's almost Giannis Antetokounmpo-like, to the point where Giannis can just kind of glide through the lane, cover a ton of ground in a very few amount of steps. That's Kai Jones like, and you see him right here guarding Cade Cunningham. He's going to block it with the left hand. This is one of the most impressive sequences probably in the breakdown series this year so far, right? We see the fluidity and the space coverage leading to the dunk for Kai on the offensive end, and then on the defensive end, he's going to get the switch onto Cade Cunningham, and just watch how he's moving his feet. He has active hands, using his length, and again, blocking it with his offhand. That is really, really special stuff, and stuff that we do not see from normal big men, right? If you can extend that shot blocking range outside of the paint, like outside of the charge circle, right? You can see the dunk right here. But let me see, we got a rebound right there by Kai. It looks like a foul too. But if you can extend your range, we talked about it a little bit with Evan Mobley, right? You know, Rudy Gobert, the best shot blockers in the game aren't limited to the paint, right? That's why Hassan Whiteside, he blocks a shit ton of shots, but he doesn't really have mobile range outwards of like 4 feet from the basket, right? Kai Jones has that where he can block floaters, he can block mid-range shots, even some three-pointers, right? And those are generally harder shots to block. But, you know, in that sense, right there, we saw with Cunningham, you know, it looks like a Rudy Gobert. It looks like an Evan Mobley, right? So just kind of, you know, again, the flashes with Kai Jones are just phenomenal. And again, if you're just watching the highlights from him, you'd say he's probably at least top 5, maybe even top 3 in this class. You can see right here, he's trying to get a rim run. Oklahoma State's in that zone. We talked about that a lot with Baylor when we watched. I think we watched right there, bad pass from Andrew Jones, and then Kai Jones probably could have come to the ball a little bit stronger. But again, that's just why make that pass. But again, you do kind of like him kind of setting this little ball screen and then kind of flaring out. It shows that he can be used in a lot of different ways. Kai Jones right here is going to pop out. Obviously, he can rim run, he can catch lobs, roll to the basket, things like that. Right here, used in a pop situation, but bad pass leads to a turnover and a dunk for Oklahoma State. But then right here comes Texas, and again, Kai Jones is just dribbling the ball up the floor like, you know, like nobody's business, right? You know, just the comfort he has with the ball at this stage, especially on the perimeter, you know, attacking closeouts. His handle is very developed for his size. That stuff is kind of rare. We'll see a few off-the-dribble jumpers today, too, where those are super impressive. You can see him right there kind of cutting towards the basket. And yeah, so there are just a lot of things to really like, I think, with him. Obviously, I've said that multiple times throughout this video. I'm trying to drill it in your guys' heads. Like, I am so high on Kai. Right now, I always, whenever I'm, like, very high on a certain player, right, I always try to kind of, like, put it into perspective with previous draft classes. So, like, for example, last year I had Jalen Smith as a top 10 prospect in the 2020 draft, right? I think Kai Jones is a better prospect than Smith. So I would say, for me personally, I think he's a better prospect than James Wiseman was at this stage. I think he's a better prospect. Maybe, no, I'm not going to go as far to say he's better than Onyeka Okongwu coming out. But I think he's right there in like these types of big men prospect. I think he's right there in the upper echelon. You can see right here again, just the rise and fire. I love his feet here too. So again, he's about to shoot this, right? His left foot is literally facing center court, right? That's weird. He's not squared up at all. But again, it's just a rise and fire. He's comfortable just shooting off the catch, a stare down 3, right? At his size, 6'11", just bottoms, right? That's unnatural for a guy his size. And again, he wasn't squared up, but he has really nice touch from deep. He shot 38% this year. Granted, on only like 1.1 attempts per game, so not a whole lot of volume there. And again, right there, another example of him playing level up the screen. We'll see it right here. And again, Jericho Sims, another really mobile, switchable big man, actually. Jericho Sims right here, number 20, who should get drafted because he's very good athlete. But obviously, we're doing a Kai Jones video. And again, just at the level of the screen, comfortable switching onto guards. You can see right here, he gets a little bit turned around, right? And so again, the pass is going to kind of zip over his head. He's like, look, you know. It's like that Mr. Krabs meme, you know. But again, just like the comfortable, his comfort in terms of playing all over the floor, I think is something really rare. You see a lot of big guys at his level kind of just stick to the paint, stick to what they know. Kai Jones, not really afraid of the moment. He's not afraid to try new things, obviously, given his shot selection and overall dribble package. And so that's something that's really important, I think, for a big man to have that confidence to try new things. And I think Kai Jones definitely has that as he runs down the floor. And again, you can use him in so many different roles. You could use him as a big wing, assuming that shot comes along a little bit more in his handle. And again, that is just, the shot doesn't go in, but just like, what? Again, so hang on, right here. Okay, remember, spatial awareness was a huge deal with him. We saw it earlier. He was on the baseline a little bit right there, just kind of, you'd like to stay in bounds a little bit more. And right here, maybe you have Cade Cunningham on you. Maybe you want to post up. He has literally no post game, so he's probably better suited on the perimeter right now anyway. But assuming he gets that post game, then it's kind of scary. But again, maybe you want to see him back Cade Cunningham down right here. He's got a height advantage. Probably he doesn't actually have a weight advantage actually, but again, he's gonna kind of just throw up this fadeaway, which it doesn't go in, but I still think it's kind of worth noting, right? That's just a weird look. It's a weird thing to see. And again, the thing with Kai Jones, it's almost just unnerving to see how unique he is for his position. Right here again, he's gonna use his length to disrupt Cade Cunningham. He's gonna cut off this corner pass to Rondell Walker, right? And it's gonna force a turnover, right? Just kind of that off-ball impact, but still making a play without actually making the play, right? And that's what I mean. Kai Jones could wreak defensive havoc on your team right there. Really impressive offensive rebound and finishes over the top. Again, great athlete. We see the value of guys who can finish at the rim, who can catch lobs, things like that. And Kai certainly has all of those qualities. And you can see him right now just picking up the point guard on the other end, right? And they're going to switch. He's going to be on Cunningham. No problem for Kai Jones. He is, not the most switchable defender in the draft, but he is a very switchable defender in the draft, right? And right here, okay. So this is also impressive. He's going to get a second foul here, okay? And so not a perfect possession, but I don't really think this should have been called a foul. That's another thing with Kai Jones too. Gets into foul trouble a shit ton, right? Part of the reason why he only played around 23 minutes a game is because he couldn't stay out of foul trouble, right? And in this game, he's going to end up fouling out in double overtime. Yeah, by the way, part 2 will be the second half, single overtime, and double overtime. Kai Jones only plays 22 minutes the entire game, just FYI. So it's kind of it's a lot of game, but it's not really a lot of game because he's not playing a whole lot. But anyway, he does get into foul trouble a frequent amount of the time. And that just kind of goes back to his overall rawness when it comes to just kind of technique, understanding the depth of the game, things like that, right? We've talked about this. We've acknowledged it. And you'll see right here, though, this shouldn't be a foul. This is just a really, really good defensive sequence, I think. Really good job staying in front. And again, this is Rondell Walker, one of those quicker guys on this Oklahoma State roster. You can see Kai Jones right here. He's a little bit off balance, right? Rondell got him with a little bit of a jab step. But just watch the way he recovers this, right? And again, he's kind of forcing baseline, can switch his hips, switch his feet really fast. He's going to get called for the foul there. But that's really impressive stuff. You don't see this from a guy who's 6'11", And again, this guy, Rondell Walker's 6'4", he's kind of like an off-ball guard. And Kai Jones is just with him stride for stride before he gets called for a cheap foul. And again, I don't know what the official wants him to do right there. That's not a foul. He has his chest in him. And he's forcing him out of bounds, right? And again, you can kind of see that length that Kai Jones does have where he can kind of swallow up smaller players, as we saw right there before the foul. Unfortunately, this is Kai Jones' second foul of the half. Again, a nod to the foul trouble. And so he's going to be out right here, and then he's back in at 29:03. So I'll skip ahead there. And so here we go. And then he's in for about a 2-minute stretch of YouTube time. And then he gets his third foul in this half. And then he's out for the remainder of the first half. So right there looked like a little bit of a thing. You can see Matt Coleman's kind of yelling at Kai Jones here. I don't really think this play is his fault. Okay, so he's on ice likely. It's a little bit of a cross screen that Oklahoma State's going to run to try and get this roller open. It just kind of creates confusion among this Texas back line. So you see Matt Coleman, I don't know what he's doing. Why is he chasing that far away? Jones could probably be switching onto this and then Coleman onto Likely, and then Coleman ultimately tags the roller because Brock Cunningham can't contain the Boone brother right here, right? Kai Jones, maybe if he wants to slide over, he could, but I don't really think this is on him. You can see it's almost an easy bucket, and you can see Matt Coleman's kind of like yelling at Kai Jones. I don't really understand why. I don't think that was really his fault, unless Coleman's telling Kai Jones, hey, switch that, you take the far guy and I'll take the middle of the floor, But overall, I didn't really think that was Kai Jones' fault, but that's just me. Jericho Sims can't finish the dunk. Then he looks like we got a foul something here. We got free throws for, I think that's Avery Anderson. Also, big news in the transfer portal today. Kofi Coburn. He's leaving Illinois, which is interesting. Yeah, that's just kind of interesting. I don't know why that came to mind now, but probably because Oklahoma State, Illinois, Brad Underwood, But, that'll be an interesting pickup for any team. That'll be interesting to see. Good instinctual cut by Kai Jones right here again. It looks like Courtney Ramey's going to draw the double team, right? And so Kai Jones immediately, once Cade kind of has to help out, he's immediately going to back cut. Just smart little things like that you'd like to see him do more of because he does have that fluidity and power to kind of catch on the run and then finish. He isn't this most coordinated guy. He'll drop some passes, fumble the ball a little bit at times. But you can see the potential there again. Good instinctual cut. The second Cade Cunningham stunts, right? Just look at this. He probably could have finished that cut, but again, it didn't look like Ramey was going to get it to him anyway. And again, this Texas team, one of the more frustrating teams this season. I thought they were going to be so good. Obviously, I had them, losing in a national championship game to Baylor in all my March Madness brackets. They lose to Abilene Christian because their guards can't stop turning the ball over, right? Just so aggravating. Kai Jones actually played really well in the tournament game, as did Jericho Sims. It was just, their guards just couldn't hang on to the ball. But I digress. You see right here, Oklahoma State's in that zone. Let's see what Kai Jones does there. Okay, good. Good relocation pass. Greg Brown's going to miss that jumper. Not much going on, and here comes Oklahoma State. They don't really have any numbers. And Kai Jones right there is going to get his third foul. Again, he's gotten two pretty cheap fouls, I would say. This one's not really on him. He's just going for the loose ball. Overall, he does have good energy. I'm not really worried about his motor or hustle. I think he's very active on the glass, very athletic, uses his size well, not afraid of contact. But right here, just kind of in a bad spot, and it's gonna be his third foul. You can see him just kind of like, what the fuck, man? But yeah, so unfortunately, that ends the Kai Jones first half video breakdown. As I mentioned earlier, he does get into foul trouble a lot, and this was a clear example of it, as he picks up his third foul with 4:45 left in the first half. But we did see some impressive flashes, right? We saw the dunk, we saw the fluidity in the lane, we saw we saw him hitting the three, we saw him playing at the level of the screen defensively. We saw him block a shot away from the rim with his offhand on the number one player in the draft class. We saw him disrupt players on the perimeter. We saw him move his feet really well. Again, the flashes are all there, Watch his highlights. He's a top 3 pick. That's Kai Jones. But then we see the frustrating side of him. We see him being 3 inches out of bounds when catching a pass. We see him, picking up, not, I'm not going to say egregiously, disappointing fouls, but just kind of avoidable ones, I would say at best, right? We see him, get lost defensively at times. We see him, not really know how to front the post or really have any good technique on the post defense thing. So yeah, just a lot of things, good and bad. Overall, though, I am very much in on Kai Jones. I hope this video kind of helped you to see why I am so in on him. And yeah, come back soon for part 2, and we will see you for that. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night, guys. Bye.